Welcome back. So this is part two of this short video series on how to work with intervals. In this part, I'm showing you briefly how to complete an interval by just a given note and the interval that I'm looking for. Also the direction, either adding a note above or below to make this interval happen. If you're confused about what these intervals are and or what do I mean by counting half steps, etc., please review the first part of this video series. Both are posted on Blackboard and also in the Music 110 YouTube playlist. So in this video, okay, so we're starting with this note, bass clef. This is a C. I'm looking for a note that's an augmented fourth above this note. Okay. So the first step is to first write down the number of half steps there are in this given interval. So an augmented fourth, if you recall, is going to be one half step larger than a perfect fourth. So a perfect fourth, okay, has 5 half steps. So an augmented fourth is going to be 5 plus 1, of course, which can yield 6 half steps. That's the first step. Okay. The next step is to find the letter name of the missing note. Okay, by counting the letters above for going up for ascending intervals, or counting the letters below. Okay, according to the size. This is sort of the reverse of the identifying the interval size part. Okay, so instead of giving you the size, instead of giving you the 2 notes and asking you to figure out the size, I'm just giving you 1 note and the size, and you're going to give me the next note. So I know this is a fourth. Okay, so this is going to be some kind of a fourth, and it's going to be above. So I'm going to start by counting C as 1. So going down up the musical alphabet actually, C, D, E, F. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you know that your answer will be some kind of an F. So it's safe to actually just write that down right there, okay? Because you're looking for a fourth above. If I just asked you for just a fourth above, augmented, diminished, perfect, it doesn't matter, you can just tell me, yeah, it's going to be some kind of an F. But to be more specific, I'm looking for an augmented fourth, and that's where the next 2 steps come in. Okay, so far you figured out that there's 6 half steps needed for the interval that you're looking for. Next, you figured out that there are 4 letters that you need for this interval size of a fourth going up. So you're going to count C, D, E, F, and you arrived at an F. The third step is to find the original note on the keyboard and count the number of half steps either below or above as needed. So the original note is C. So we start with a C, which is right here, right? And we're looking for something that is 6 half steps above, right? So I'm going to count 6 half steps just with the identifying the quality of the interval by counting half steps. In counting half steps here, we also count the first note as 0 because there's 0 half steps between C and C. Okay, so again, this is slightly different than counting the size, right? So just be careful when you're going through that. So C is 0 half steps. Okay, so then you're going to C sharp, 1 half step, D, 2 half steps, D sharp, 3 half steps, 4, 5, and 6. So we arrive at this note. Okay, we know it's going to be either an F sharp or a G flat. Okay, so again, I know that I start with a C because this is what the question started with. And I know that I'm counting 6 half steps above because I need an augmented fourth above. And I know that there's 6 half steps in an augmented fourth. Okay, with those pieces of information, right, I arrived at finding C on the keyboard, and then I'm counting 6 half steps above. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so final step is once you arrive at this note on the keyboard, your job is to try to describe this note, okay, in terms of the letter name that you came up with earlier. So the letter name that you came up with earlier is F. Okay, so you need to describe this note as some kind of an F. And very clearly, this is either an F sharp or G flat, which means that the missing note is an F sharp. This is important because, as I mentioned in the webinars, if you just play these 2 notes, C and F sharp, it's going to sound exactly the same as C to G flat because, of course, F sharp and G flat are describing the same note. However, remember, in intervals, we're talking about the distance between 2 notes as they're written, okay, as they're written on the staff. So it's very, very important that you describe these 2 notes, C to F sharp, as an augmented fourth. Okay. Finally, I also went over this briefly in the webinar from Friday, April 3rd. If you take the same two pitches, that is to say the same two buttons, the same two keys on the keyboard, but you wrote it differently. Let's say you wrote it as C to G flat. Okay? Even though that they are going to yield the exact same sound, if you play those two notes just by themselves on the keyboard and you ask a friend what does it sound like, these two pairs of notes are going to sound exactly the same. However, when you're writing it this way, this is no longer an augmented fourth. First, it is a fifth, because there are 5 letters encompassed between these two notes from the bottom to the top: C, D, E, F, and G. Okay, so there's 5 letters here: E, F, G. It also has 6 half steps. Okay, so from looking at our chart of half steps for intervals, we know that the perfect fifth has 7 half steps. So a diminished fifth, okay, has 6 half steps. So this is an example of a diminished fifth. Okay, so take a look at the information here. Also, the best way to review this is to try your hand at identifying and completing intervals on your own. Always refer to some of the slides that I've posted in explaining this, especially in the relationship between major and minor intervals. For our class, that's going to be seconds and thirds, and also perfect, augmented, and diminished. Okay? Once you understand the relationship between these intervals, okay, and more specifically how they affect the number of half steps there are in each, then you're going to be able to more quickly and more accurately figure out these questions. Okay, so take a look. If you have any questions, please let me know.